Hey guys, how are you all doing? This is the MMA breakdown with my recap for UFC 175, Weidman versus Machida. And before I recap 175, I also want to quickly recap World Series of Fighting 11, Gaethje versus Newell, just because I think it's worth talking about. I'll only recap the main card, which is the only portion of the card that I watched. But let's do that. So at lightweight or a catch weight, because Gallard missed weight, Gallard stopped Cavalcante in the second round. TKO. I thought it was a horrible stoppage. Melvin Gallard basically hit him with a knee on the chin. Cavalcante was against the fence. Cavalcante wasn't dazed, wobbled, he wasn't dropped or anything, and the ref just decided to stop the fight. I thought it was really terrible. I don't ever like stoppages when guys are still on their feet, but that was not justified at all. Terrible stoppage. But Gallard, I thought, looked good. Really unloaded on Cavalcante. I think Gallard has been a guy who's always either held back way too much or attacks too carelessly, and I thought he looked pretty good here. Picked his opportunities to attack, starting to hurt Cavalcante. I think he would have finished him eventually, but good one for Gallard. And Cavalcante, the few fights I've seen of his, I've never really been impressed with him. I think he was a bit of a punching bag for Gallard here. But Gallard still looked good, and hopefully he fights Gaethje next. I think that would be a really exciting fight, and if Gaethje can get a win over Gallard, I think that might be his ticket into the UFC. Well, definitely should be. I was hoping Nick Newell would win and fight Gallard, and beat Gallard, so finally Dana White would let up and bring him into the UFC, but Newell didn't happen. Newell couldn't get it done. And next up, another catchweight fight. Was supposed to be a bantamweight because Cody Bollinger missed weight. He submitted Pablo Alfonso in the first round. I thought Bollinger looked pretty good. Never got to see him fight in the house on Tough 18, but I thought he looked pretty good here. Got a big slam early on, was aggressive, and looked pretty good on the mat, able to wrap up that rear naked choke. I don't really know any of the other bantamweights in World Series of Fighting, but hopefully they keep putting Bollinger on main cards, and look forward to seeing him again. I think he's a decent prospect, at least for an organization like WSOF. And then the co-main event, a middleweight, John Fitch got a unanimous decision over Dennis Hallman. This was the John Fitch of old. Looked really dominant here. Of course, Dennis Hallman, not the biggest challenge, especially at this point of his career. But Dennis Hallman, he's not a guy who really got beat out of the UFC. His last fight in the UFC was actually a really dominant win over John Makdessi, where he took him down in that fight, pounded him, and got the rear naked choke real early in the first round. And I was pretty disappointed he never got to fight Thiago Tavares. He was supposed to fight him, and I think that fight fell through on the day of the fight. But Dennis Hallman, even as old as he is, I think he's 38. A guy who is still doing pretty well in the UFC, and Fitch just totally dominated him. Did his classic grinding wrestling style, got him down, got top position, and just pounded away. I was pretty surprised that none of the judges gave John Fitch a 10-8 round for any of the rounds. I thought a couple of them. I think especially the third round could have been was definitely a 10-8 for Fitch. Hallman kept going for submissions. Real crafty guy off of his back, attacking with leg locks and looking for submissions, but just seemed a little too comfortable there on his back. Couldn't threaten with anything serious, and just ate a bunch of ground and pound for 3 rounds. John Fitch looked dominant. I'm not. Obviously, he's had some pretty major setbacks against Josh Berkman, and I thought he couldn't dominate Marcelo Alfaya like this at all in his last fight. Thought that was a pretty disappointing performance, but I really want to see him fight Paul Juarez and hopefully Shields also, which was supposed to be the fight before Hallman. But looking forward to Fitch fighting those guys, and those are the fights we need to see for Fitch to really prove where he's at right now. And the main event, Justin Gaethje knocking out Nick Newell in the second round. This was a really fun fight. Nick Newell had his moments early. He landed some good combinations, but Gaethje just had the bigger power and seemed to have the bigger gas tank. He hurt Newell pretty badly in that first round, and Newell just didn't have much left going into that second. Gaethje's just got good stand-up, pushes a good pace, and I was really sad to see Nick Newell go down. Not to be no disrespect meant, but for his handicap and his disability, I think what he's been able to accomplish has been really incredible, and even without not considering his handicap, he's still been a very dominant fighter, really talented guy, and I think Dana White's unwillingness to bring him into the UFC, I thought was pretty. I thought it looked bad. Saying that it would be a freak show to have a one-arm fighter in the UFC, but Nick Newell's problem was never his performances, but it was his resume. He just didn't have any wins over former UFC vets, and that's why I was really hoping after he beat Gaethje that he could fight Melvin Guillard, and that would be a huge win and a huge statement, and that would be his ticket in the UFC, but just couldn't get it done. This was his first loss of his career, but considering how far he's come in his life and in the sport, you got to think that he's going to come back a lot stronger from this. But Justin Gaethje, real good fighter, talented guy, powerful striker, and look forward to seeing him again. Hopefully they can do the Guillard fight without any trouble there. All right, so let's get to UFC 175. I didn't love this card. It's too bad that the Struve Mitrione fight got pulled at the last minute. Nobody's fault, I guess, but really disappointing and really concerning for Stefan Struve. Who knows if he'll ever be able to fight again if he's healthy enough. But the July 4th weekend cards have generally been my favorite cards of the year since I've been watching UFC. And this one, besides the main event, just wasn't excited for much here. The Rousey-Davis fight, I didn't think that was surprising at all because I didn't see Davis being competitive for 1 second with Rousey. The Hall Santos fight, despite his toe injury and the fans cheering him on, I didn't think that was a great fight. And the prelim card especially, not very stacked. Nice breakout performance for Rob Font. Kind of, but not a great prelim card, and really expected for the July 4th weekend card, I really expected a more stacked prelim card than this, but let's run through the fights. So with on the UFC Fight Pass preliminary card, middleweight Kevin Casey knocked out Bubba Bush in the first round, or TKO. Kevin Casey looked real dominant in this. Caught Bubba Bush real early as Bush was coming in, caught him with a looping hook, dropped him, got on top of him, and rained down big elbows to finish the fight early and fast. Really like this performance. With all the new guys they're bringing in, with all of the cards they're running, these are the kind of performances I like to see. Just fast, dominant, exciting. Even if these guys aren't going to go far, that's the kind of stuff that's going to catch my eye. But good one for Casey. I thought he looked good. I think he's kind of redeemed himself from quitting against Bubba McDaniel. I even thought his fight against Josh Saman was pretty exciting, even though he got finished there. But looking forward to seeing Kevin Casey again. Looking forward to seeing Kevin Casey again. Maybe Eddie Gordon, who just won Tough 19. It's a middleweight. Maybe that's a good matchup, but nice one for Kevin Casey. And next up, another middleweight fight. Luke Zacharick got a unanimous decision over Guilherme Bomba Vasconcelos. Luke Zacharick was from one of the Tough seasons, and Vasconcelos from Tough Brazil 3. Really boring, shitty kickboxing fight. Pretty uneventful, nothing big happened. I was really surprised at how much Joe Rogan was praising Zacharick and just making it sound like he was being really dominant. I actually thought the second and third rounds, I thought Vasconcelos landed a lot more strikes, but maybe I need to watch it again. But Zacharick got the decision, and I really don't care about seeing either of these guys again. It wasn't exciting at all, and they seem to be pretty low-level guys. Moving on to the Fox Sports 1 preliminary card. Bantamweight, Rob Font with a big win. The big knockout over George Roop in the first round. I didn't know anything about Rob Font coming in. George Roop, I've always thought has been one of the most consistent fighters and the inconsistent fighters in the UFC. And I said in my predictions, he has a very suspect chin. He's terrible striking defense. Any fighters with any kind of power have been able to put him out. Cub Swanson, Mark Hominick, and most recently Francisco Rivera, and now Rob Font. Just caught him with a big punch midway through that first round, put him out cold. Not surprising at all, considering what I just said about George Roop. And he's just not built for bantamweight. Way too tall and slow. Guys are able to get inside on him, throw those big power punches. He's not quick enough. Bad striking defense. And I just don't think Roop really hasn't progressed in his career at all since coming in from the WEC. He's 4-5 since coming in the UFC, and the drop to bantamweight really hasn't helped him at all. The couple of wins he got, he had his best win in the UFC was probably over Josh Grisby, but since dropping to bantamweight, had a nice win over Brian Bowles. Even in that fight, he got cracked. But the wins against Ruben Duran and Dustin Kimura, and I actually thought he barely won against Duran. He just used his size to out-wrestle guys and hold them down. Doesn't do much once he gets on top, and I just don't have much hope for him, never have, and suffers a knockout loss to a newcomer. And I'll pay attention to Rob Font the next time he fights. don't really know how to assess him after this performance. A good win for him, getting a win over a guy who's been in the UFC for a while now. Has had some good wins, but yeah, good win for Rob Font, and I think that's the end of George Roop. Next up, a middleweight, another terrible, boring fight. Bruno Santos laying and praying Chris Camozzi for 3 rounds at the split decision, which I thought was ridiculous. Thought Bruno Santos clearly won the second and third rounds. Camozzi in the first round was using some good rangy striking, which is about the only weapon he has. But in that second round, Santos was just able to take him down, hold him down, push him up against the fence. Pretty much the story of the fight. Camozzi couldn't do a damn thing to get off of his back. Pretty terrible fight, and Santos did not care to open up with ground and pound or look for a submission. Just held on tightly and really just tried to hold Camozzi down, and it's a legitimate way to win, but not exciting at all. The third round, Chris Camozzi seemed to come alive for a bit. He started to pump the jab, but Santos was able to get him down again. Santos looked a lot more dominant here than in his debut against Krzysztof Jotko, but a guy so boring that I really don't care to see him fight again. I think maybe he should fight Magnus Edenblad, who's a more exciting fighter. Both guys kind of grapplers. I'd like to see that match up. Hopefully Edenblad can make that an exciting fight. And Chris Camozzi, he just hasn't developed at all since coming in the UFC from Tough 11. He had a 4-fight win streak at one point. He won a couple of fights that I don't think people expect him to, like the Nick Ring fight, Louis Kane, but he really looks the same in all his fights. He just fights at a very slow, methodical pace, uses rangy striking, but he's on a 3-fight losing streak now, and just looks like the exact same fighter who came in from Tough 11. I think it's time to start questioning whether he's UFC caliber, and I don't think he is anymore. Next up at welterweight, Kenny Robertson got the decision over Ildemar Alcantara. This is a fight that I got wrong. Kenny Robertson just out-hustled Alcantara, and I'd like to think that I saw this coming. I did pick Alcantara, but initially, before I made that official pick on my predictions video, I actually was seriously thinking about picking Robertson. Robertson, kind of a limited fighter, has his wrestling and has crafty submission ability, but not very effective with his hands, but he is a hard worker, and Alcantara is not. Robertson was able to take him down at will, pounded on him, didn't do significant damage, but in control, pushing the pace the whole time. On the feet even, he was pressing the action, did better on the feet than Alcantara, and Robertson just had more grit, and this is the second fight where Alcantara's just been badly outworked and out-hustled. Against Igor Araujo, tough veteran of Tough 16. That fight looked almost identical to this, a grappling match where Araujo just had way more energy and pushed a way higher pace on the ground, was constantly attacking with submissions, and Alcantara just doesn't seem to have a sense of urgency on the ground or on the feet. I'm happy to see Robertson get this win. I think he's really hitting his stride. I was impressed with his finish over Thiago Perpetuo in his last fight, and the fight against Sean Pearson, he was really close to finishing Pearson in that last round. So excited to see how far Robertson can go with his limited skill set, but nice to see him get the win here. And Alcantara, he looked good in his last fight over Albert Tumanov, but nowhere near as good as his brother Yuri, and not excited to see him fight again. And the last fight on the Fox Sports 1 preliminary card at bantamweight, Uriah Faber submitting Alex Caceres in the third round. This was way more competitive than I thought it was going to be. I thought Faber was going to get Caceres out of there in the first round. Caceres did very well to make this a competitive fight. He hurt Faber, I believe it was in the beginning of the third round. Might have been the second round. He hit him with a combination that backed Faber up. Looked like it stunned him. And on the ground, Caceres was pretty tricky. Was playing guard well. But Faber just too determined to get the win. And in that third round just came forward, caught the leg of Caceres and threw some big punches. Knocked him down. Got on top of him. Moved to the back and secured that rear naked choke. Faber, though, I thought this win came way too hard for him. He had way too much difficulty getting the finish. Getting to the point of getting the finish in the third round. He looked like a completely different fighter in this fight than he did against Michael McDonald. Back in December. I thought Faber really screwed himself by taking that Barao fight on such short notice after such a busy year for him. I thought the McDonald fight was one of the best wins of his UFC career. Probably the best. And I would I think a rematch between a healthy, well-trained Faber and Barao, I think that's a toss-up fight after seeing the McDonald fight. But he took that fight on short notice, which I just couldn't give him any chance to win, having no time to rest and recover, and no time to game plan for a guy like Barao. He got stopped in that fight in the first round. And now is just kind of a wanderer in the division. Got a good one here. You have to admire him for being so tough and taking fights against anybody, even against guys like Caceres who are way below him in the rankings. Got the finish, which is good, but his stand-up did not look nearly as crisp or as dangerous as it did against McDonald. And I want to see Faber put together another win streak and fight for the title again, but performances like that are not going to get it done against the top contenders at bantamweight. I don't think so. Not to say that he can't return to his old form like he did on that his most recent win streak, but if that's the best he can do, I don't see him getting back to the title. And Caceres put in a good performance, showed he can compete with a guy like Faber, and I want to see him start fighting better guys now. His last couple of fights over Sergio Pettis and Roland Delorme, real low-level guys in the division. And I want to see him take a step up and fight some better guys. Maybe Caceres and Mike Easton. Yeah. And maybe, speaking of Mike Easton, maybe Faber could fight Yves Jabouin coming off of a nice win over Easton. I think that would be a pretty fun fight. And next up, moving to the main card, bantamweight, Russell Doane got a split decision over Marcus Brimage. I don't agree with the decision. I thought Brimage won rounds 2 and 3. I thought he did more damage standing up, was more effective. Definitely gave Russell Doane the first round. He was able to take Brimage down. spent a lot of time on top, had control for most of that first round. But second round, Brimage, I thought he looked really awesome on the feet. His only problem was he didn't press the action enough, didn't go forward enough, didn't throw high enough volume. But his leg kicks looked great. He was throwing and landing a lot of those. Looked like he was going to finish the fight by kicking out Doan's leg. His hand speed, I thought, looked really good, but again, just didn't throw enough. Doan took him down again in the second round, but didn't spend nearly as much time on top as he did in the first round. And then the third round, can't remember if Doan got him down, but I thought Brimage, second and third round, did more on the feet than Doan did on the ground. But setback for Brimage, and Doan picks up another win. I thought he looked really good over Leandro Issa, who got a good win this weekend as well on a tough finale card. But 2 wins for Doan, but I think he still has to prove himself against some lower level competition. I think a fight between him and Chris Beal might be a fun matchup. Beal coming off of a knockout win. I think it was back in April, another tough veteran. I think that would be a fun fight. And Marcus Brimage, I think he looks really good at bantamweight, but he's got to be more active. And even though I thought he won this fight, not such a great performance overall. Next up at middleweight, Uriah Hall got the unanimous decision over Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos landed a lot of leg kicks in this fight. That was pretty much his. That's where most of his offense came. And Uriah Hall had that looked like a dislocated toe, and I thought it was just bullshit that the doctor didn't stop it. I mean, the guy could have gotten injured further, a lot more seriously, and I think it's just bullshit that the doctor didn't stop that. The doctor's there to protect the fighters, but anyway, Hall did well to fight through the injury, throwing a lot of his unorthodox strikes, a lot of spinning kicks. I think he might have thrown the spinning wheel kick at one point. Pretty much landed more strikes than Santos throughout the fight. A few shots that looked like he stunned Santos, but nothing really significant. Never got close to finishing Santos or even dropping him. And he was doing a lot of showboating. I think it was in that first round. A lot of juking and feinting. And I wasn't a fan of it. I don't like seeing that shit unless you're really gonna try to finish the fight. And although Hall did get the win here, and I'm sure that injury was bothering him and affecting him, but I don't know that this fight would have looked a whole lot different if Hall didn't have that injured toe. I think this fight looked very similar to the John Howard fight. Hall's just kind of throwing shots here and there, but still not convinced that he has a killer instinct. I don't think a win over Thiago Santos really means much of anything. Granted, Santos is coming off of a big knockout win over Hani Marks, but Uriah Hall, I'm still not sold on this guy. And Santos, vet from Tough Brazil too, had a big win over Hani Marks in his last fight, but didn't look too good here, and I don't know if he's gonna have another performance like that. I think might have been a bit of a fluke win, but still want to see Uriah Hall, fight someone tougher and really prove that he was that guy on Tough, but I don't think he is. Next up, the co-main event, Ronda Rousey knocking out Alexis Davis in 16 seconds. Ronda Rousey's incredible. She's great. She's the champion. One of these John Jones, Anderson Silva type champions. The way I see it, she's been super dominant, and she's put a lot of work into her hands. And she may be the best female striker in the UFC right now. Definitely not saying she's a better striker than Cyborg Santos, but her hands are a real weapon. Tagged Davis right out of the gate, hurt her, used that judo throw to get her down, and pounded on her, knocked her out. I can't say I was a bit surprised by this, though. I really pictured something exactly like this. Rousey just running right over her. Not to say Davis is a bad fighter, but I didn't think she even got the win over Jessica Ai. And really, she hasn't looked that dominant in any of her wins in the UFC. Maybe against Rosie Sexton, but, low-level fighter in the division. And I wasn't surprised, but another great win for Rousey. And I think it's getting a little scary that she's cleared out almost the entire division by now. The only woman to give her any trouble is Miesha Tate, and she beat her twice already, finished her twice. So I'm not interested in seeing that fight again, especially considering Miesha Tate didn't look good at all against Carmouche in her last fight, and she's got a fight coming up in Japan anyway. But there's Carano, Cyborg, obviously. I mean, I think the UFC just has to sign Cyborg at this point. I mean, who's Rousey going to fight? A rematch with Sarah Kaufman, Jessica Ai. Fights that just can't sell, and I don't think anyone's really interested in those fights. And Ronda Rousey's just head and shoulders above everyone in that division. They got to sign Cyborg. And if Cyborg doesn't want to make the weight or doesn't want to fight in the UFC for whatever reason, I mean, I think she'd be an idiot for doing that. But who knows when Kat Zingano's coming back? The Carano fight, I think, would be a really marketable fight, but I don't give a shit about seeing that as a competitive fight. Rousey would destroy her. And Holly Holm, who's an interesting prospect, but she'd have nothing on the ground for Rousey. So this division, I think, is in serious jeopardy. Have to get some serious contenders in there, and there's just no one that I think could give Rousey even a slight challenge. Maybe Juliana Pena, if she can come back from that injury and show some more in the cage and get some more wins, but getting kind of scary. Not really any fights out there for Rousey at all. The Zingano fight would be a good fight, but who knows when she's coming back. I would be interested in seeing that fight, though. Not that I think Zingano could beat her, but I think that has a chance of being slightly competitive. But Rousey, I think, is here to stay. And the main event, Chris Weidman getting the unanimous decision over Lyoto Machida. Great fight. Great fight. I hope that everyone who was doubting Weidman after the two perfectly legitimate wins, stoppage wins over Anderson Silva, I hope they recognize that he's the real deal, that he's a serious champion, serious talent, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters right now. But Chris Weidman looked great. I'm really, since he beat Anderson Silva, I was really impressed with, Longo and Sarah, his coaches. Chris Weidman's a real game plan guy and comes out looking real sharp. He was able to completely manage distance very well against Machida. was able to push him back against the cage most of the fight, especially in that first round. Was using the kicks real well in the first round. And even though Machida stuffed his takedown in the first round, I thought Weidman definitely won the first round. Second round, I thought Machida was winning it, was landing more on the feet up until Weidman took him down near the end of the round. I scored the second round for Weidman, but I thought a case could have been made for Machida. Third round was Weidman. Having a little trouble remembering exactly what happened in each round, but scored the third round for Weidman. He was able to get some takedowns. He was wrestling well. But then the fourth round, Machida started to open up and definitely won that round. Hurt Weidman. Weidman looked like he might have been going down at one point. Machida looked great. This was my favorite performance of Machida since he's been champion. Everyone, including mine, criticism of him has been that he just doesn't throw his hands enough, and he doesn't go for the kill. He doesn't come forward enough for a guy who's really dangerous and really talented. But he threw everything he had at Weidman. He really chased that knockout, something we'd never seen him do before since he lost that belt. And he really left everything he had out there and put everything into finishing Weidman. Couldn't do it. Weidman was very tough. And then that fifth round, I thought Machida was definitely winning it early on. I think he kicked Weidman in the groin early on and was able to land some more shots. But Weidman recovered, took him down. I think he landed a big elbow on the feet at one point. And I scored that fifth round for Weidman, but I thought it was close. And I actually think Machida could have come away with this decision. I thought he definitely won the fourth round, but 2 and 5. I think you can make a case for Machida, but I scored it for Weidman, and a great effort by both guys. Weidman, he got the win over Machida, proved he's for real, but also some holes in his game were exposed. Showed he can be hit on the feet, and his cardio might be a little suspect, I think. But great performance for Weidman, great effort by Machida. Really loved to see him finally open up and really chase that knockout. I really thought that fight against Phil Davis was pretty disappointing by Machida. Thought he could have finished Davis anytime he wanted to, and just never really opened up. You see when Machida blitzes guys like he did against Davis early on, he can do some serious damage, and was never able to drop Weidman, but really poured it on in the fourth round and fifth round too. But great effort by Machida. I think he can still be a top contender at middleweight, but I don't know if I don't think he can ever be the champion at middleweight. And hopefully Weidman, I think Weidman has a very rare opportunity to do something that guys like Jones and Cain Velasquez and even Johnny Hendricks don't really have an opportunity to do. And that's to beat a whole long list of really viable, dangerous contenders. Top 10 at middleweight. It's more stacked than it's ever been, more stacked than it ever was when Silva was champion. And there's some killers in that division. And I'm not saying Weidman beats everyone. I certainly think he has the potential to. But I'm just saying that he has the opportunity, if he can beat all of those guys, Belfort, Jacare, Musasi, Luke Rockhold, Yoel Romero, if he can beat all of those guys, he has a serious case of being, I think number one pound for pound right now. John Jones, he hasn't faced guys like that. He's had a couple of fights against middleweights, Sonnen and Belfort, and Glover Teixeira, who's a good fighter, but I don't think Teixeira's in his division. I don't think he's the same kind of contender that Jacare and Belfort are, but and Cain Velasquez, I mean, after he beats Verdum, maybe Travis Brown if he comes back, but Weidman's got a whole lot of work ahead of him, but excited to see if he can do it. But if he can beat all those guys, he may have a case of being number one pound for pound in the sport. So that's my recap for UFC 175, Weidman versus Machida. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please like the video, comment, subscribe. Check out my recap for UFC Tough 19 finale. And I'll be back with predictions for Fight Night 45, Cerrone versus Miller, which is next week. And also 2 fights next week. Also the Fight Night Dublin card, Brandao and McGregor. And at the end of the month, a really great Fox card, the best free card we've gotten all summer. Lawler and Matt Brown. I'll have predictions and recaps for those. Thanks, guys. Take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.